Hello, today is that of Tuesday, 23rd day of July 2019. My name is Derek, and this is the Money Charts channel where, like always, all bets, trades, and of the like, well, that's within each own risk and their own reward. Welcome. Let's start off with silver, move on to gold, move on to the stock market, and then move on to Bitcoin cryptocurrencies. And well, silver to start right now, currently in at 48 against, and let's all this in here. Okay, I got XAG USD, which is the price of silver against US dollar. Multiply, that's what the star here is, multiplication, and that's 29,167. You need that many troy ounces to get a US ton. Divide that by Bitcoin against the US dollar. So that's how many Bitcoins you need for 1 ton of silver right now, 48.134. Back in 2012, when silver was really expensive, 288,000, close to 300,000 Bitcoin was needed for 1 metric ton. And then, of course, down, we can see here it breaks down below this 1,000 number in here. Don't know why my line's just messing up like that. Maybe because of this big move here, but 1,286 down, and then this low. This is just, why is this so choppy? Let me just change my time frame, see if this helps. It actually does. Yeah, so this little low in here is in at 24. You needed just 24 Bitcoin back in 2017. Will this number ever go below 1? I mean, it's been extremely volatile. I'm not saying it will or it will not. But that's how it's looking on the daily term time frame, just a more of a shorter term look. What all these gaps mean? Well, you can pretty much tell where the weekends are. Let's put it that way. That's one easy indication. I'm guessing this was a Friday on May the 10th. Then May the 13th would have been Monday. But it does look like we're going to get a reversal of trend in here, though. We got resistance established in here. We'll see how it goes. As far as gold is concerned, I'm not going to put this in metric tons. We'll just do the simple 1 ounce of gold for 1 Bitcoin. Although I might have to change it in time because right now it's 0.14. It's a Satoshi coin? A penny stock? No, it's not pennies, it's Satoshis. It's a lot of them at 0.14. 140 million, I think it is. 140 million Satoshi of Bitcoin for 1 ounce of gold. The pattern pretty much the same way. It's got a little bit more to get above this established resistance at about 0.15. But if you wanted to see something like, yeah, you know what, how about 100 ounces of gold? Okay, we'll do it that way. Multiply this by 100. One didn't push when I typed it. There it did. So 14.33, we got the numbers a little bit better. You know what might be interesting? I could take some of these Satoshi coins and just multiply it by 100 million, like DGB. That's an interesting idea. And I'll probably get a better log scale. So that's going to be the first crypto now that I'm going to look at is DGB, even though it's not really doing anything. I don't think anyway. But yeah, same little pattern here on the daily time frame. Let's just go, well, the monthly was a little choppy on silver. Let's just do the weekly here. Okay, so for 10 ounces of silver today, 1433. Used to be 54,000 ounce, or let me just, yeah, 54,000 down to 14. So the price of gold, much, much, much lower. I'm just trying to think here for a second. Let me just pause the tape. Yeah. So yeah, now when you look at it in here, you only need 14 Bitcoin to get 10 ounces of gold. This is the number I'm trying to think. So it'd be 100 ounces. So I guess you could just put it back. It would have been 34.1. So 340 Bitcoins you used to need for just 1 ounce of gold. And now you need 14 for 100. That's one way of putting it. Regarding the gold silver ratio, continuation of large red candle down days. I don't know how many we're going to get in a row. 3, 4, 5, 6. We're looking at 7 I was going to say every single day this week, but it's a 5-day week, but for more than 1 week now. Every single day. Ratio is at 93, now it's at 86, and well, it's It was a lot lower before. So it puts it into perspective. Okay, so it's now just started to come back to this level. Still haven't came back to here. If it will on this run, it might. It might not. Moving on to the Dow Jones Industrials against Bitcoin, and it's 2.7 right now. I wish I could see the extra decimal. I don't know how I could do that. I mean, really, I don't. Just to see, it's kind of stupid for me to have to multiply it by 10 because I kind of like I like 4 digits to see something on a 4 digit handle, and I don't mind three. But that's why I'd like to see like, and I don't. This is why I don't mind three is I don't mind seeing at 2.75. But whatever, I'll just take it for what it's worth. It's 2.7. It was like seven and change. That's not that long ago. So yeah, big volatility on the monthly chart. It was 3,000, which means you need 3,000 bitcoins for one share of the Dow. Has it ever been the ratio? The lowest it's been 1.3. So it has yet to have had a match with it. It was very close during the top, and it just needs a pierce below this previous low to, of course, get it down below 1. And now for my test in here. Let's do weekly because I can see more periods. Yeah, better. See, I mean, this is I got log scale pushed. You can't tell. I can just scroll this up a bit so you can see. See, my log button is on, but by no means is this chart a log scale. I'm going to multiply this by 100 million. And the way I do it always, it's 300 and then 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3, and then again 1, 2, 3. Oh, the log scale's different. Huh? Okay, I got you. I might, you know what? Some of these I might just change like this. And now I got all the decimals that I don't need. I mean, interesting how that works. I know. Is there any way of doing decimals on? Oh my goodness. With that being said, this is how DGB looks on a log scale. And that's just how it is. Anything on the daily that we just take a look at? It's yeah, like not much is going on. It's just stuck in this here. Let's go to Bitcoin. And this is in a very, very serious situation right now because we're at what is really the third test of this Fibonacci support. The first one came on July the 1st and 2nd. It then rallied up to Fibonacci resistance for a second time hit and second test of the Fib level near 13th and getting above 13,000. Test number 2 of support occurred, and you could count this as an extra one because it had an intraday extra test, but I don't. Because on July the 15th, it had a pierce above it, and it had a rally up to about a good rally from that point. And then it came back down, but all of these days in here, I'm going to count as the second hit, and it majorly, noticeably pierced above it. Or below it, rather. Below it. And then it had a multi-day rally up to make a lower high to the area in which it came from. Obviously staying below the 18 average of lows or highs, and it could have went further and it still would have been in that same sort of situation. But after that, 2 small red down days, but noticeable days, that managed to go to the lows, and today now starting to break through. So a lot of forward continued momentum. So definitely some cautionary signs that this market could be heading down well nicely into the 9,000s. It's and again, this is the third test. We're at the upper end of this newly ranged market. So the range is about 10,000, appears above 10,000, roughly around 10,001, which matches up with this low area. Matches in with this low. And then in here, and obviously piercing below. Well, you can only pierce below so many times before it just obviously there's going to be downtrends along the way. Let me just change the exchange for drawing purposes. And within this one in here, which is Bitstamp, same thing. We do have downtrends. So I have talked about, yeah, we're in the sideways mode. Yeah, we are. But we're also still in a downtrending mode. And it's really going to get defined now, for the most part, or very soon, which one you're going to throw out. Because if this market ends up making a lower low, you can throw all of this, the whole range bound market, no, it's bearish. If the price action is unable to have any more tests of this, and it's just going to, and the longer it goes without breaking down below this support, the further it's going to get away from whatever this trend line is that connects this key point and this key point. Then it's just, yeah, we're no longer in that downtrend anymore. But when it comes down to it, it still is going to have to get by this downtrend. However you're going to draw it again. However, whenever you connect this point with this point with this point, and another way of putting it, just looking at pure numbers that don't change, previous high. Well, the previous high for this one is 11,120. So that's what's got to get above. And then, of course, the 18 average of highs as well. The monthly continues to pause in there. It's an inside month right now because last month's high was 13,880, which means it's got to rally more than 38.8% at this stage just to match it. It needs to rally that much after $91 more. That's what it needs at 10,000. It's a 38.8% move. We'll say close to 40% to just even pierce above what an inside month is or to microscopically make a new high. Last month's low was 7,432. The odds seem to be pretty good right now that we will close this month with an inside month. Whether it closes red or green at this stage was obviously to be determined because right now it's only down 7.97% with a little over 1 week to go. And I'm going to say that again. It's only down a little under 8% for a trading period of 23 days. And that really isn't too much. Look at this microscopic one here. That was down 4.4% on October of last year. And then this really nice up one was 62.2% up. Some bigger red down months. Well, the breakdown month here was 37% down. Because to regain 7.93%, that could happen in 40 minutes or an hour, the way this market works. Because a lot of times, and this can happen at any given spot. You're in this downtrend and all of a sudden it goes up because the last time the market was in a very bearish situation, that's exactly what happened. Although it wasn't not from that exact point because this is, it was looking pretty bearish in here. Oh, okay. Oh, decent size rally and yeah, it was it was, because it's breaking down from here. It's been in such a long downtrend. Yeah, it looks even more so within the previous highs in here. Oh man, this looks bad. Let's sell short. Let's sell my Bitcoin because I think it's going to probably not only go to 9,100, but even lower, but even just for a quick scalp to 91 and okay, that happens. And it goes up fast, and then every single time, not every single time, but a good majority of these times you have either to the upside or the downside a move like that, a straight up or down play. It goes sideways, and then it's going to have to do something after. Okay, what did it do? What did it do after? Failed breakout in here, because this was a major key level of resistance. We can see it got above it. So this is where I could first draw the trend line in, right in here, and this even goes back in here. But as we can see, you have a significant move, and this is where drawing that box becomes extremely easy to do because, well, quite frankly, this is a common situation. So there's that little square box, however you want to call it. It gets back into congestion area, which would be in here. There's your congestion area. And then on the breakdown, what do we have? We have, it's either a failed breakdown or a successful. And so it makes it an okay leg. So it's either going to have, it could have a continuation further. It could just go down like that. It didn't, but it could very easily do it. But and a lot of times, if there's going to be a leg lower, we're going to resist where we came from. Is that what it did here? Yes, that's exactly what it did. The 18 highs, that's always going to be why. I mean, 20 would work the same, like 20 moving average. Similar enough, I should say. But then breaking down below this, there we have it. It's been continuously going down. So this move just hasn't stopped yet. And of course, we can see in here that now it's progressing itself to this. Do we do anything further for the daily? And any significant rallies, it's got a long ways to go because this level here of this range that I talked about that it had, well, I've talked about liftoff support before, where if you're in a situation where you break a key level, you come back down, and then you go like that. That to me would be lift-off support. So the polar opposite would be breakdown resistance or lift down. I don't know, breakdown, yeah, whatever. So there's your move down. You come back to this little area here. It kind of did it a couple times overall because it did it here and it did it here. So this technically was a failed breakdown, which had a successful correction. And there we have it from there. So now if there's a bigger term move, you've had a good set or good leg lower. Now it takes a lot of energy, a lot of work just to get to that previous area. And that's 10,400. We're looking at like 4%. Much easier to do 4% in a quick move than, of course, up to this 10.7. But if any move like that is to occur, then that's a one of two situations. Do we have one of the more longer intermediate term for this of a lower high? You have this area, you'd have this area, and now this would be the next one. Okay, maybe. And that's why I say if it does have a move from this point in here, it would have to be very important to be able to sustain it and correct it efficiently. How do you correct it efficiently? One, just keep on going and then correct later. And that's where if you don't find resistance where you're supposed to, it's going to be a big move. And that's a more or less common situation. But having it go sideways in this area, and just really just the correctionary mode. Okay, if you've came a long way to get there, now you can come down, not a long way, but not as long of a way, which is a higher low. Something like that. And that's why it becomes very important every time I say it has a big move to hold what would be necessary, the deepest retracement for that of a higher low. But that's, of course, when it's ready. As we see here, it's just showing signs of breaking down. I guess for this case here on the short term, I probably should use the Binance data because I'll have better candles. And I also have fib lines in there too. Oh, we're close to one. We're close to one. Yeah, you probably almost... I'm not going to say it's scary. It just almost seems, whenever I see this type of pattern, and I've seen this quite a bit, it comes down here. It's a pierce above the line. And what have I said so many times about these fib levels in cryptos? It usually pierces extra. Because mathematically speaking, if this formula that I use, which pretty much almost nobody uses, now it's picking up, I think, a bit, but most people don't understand this math. They wouldn't even understand how to figure out the formula. And a lot of those people are actually pretty decent in math, too. That's what's interesting about the Fibonacci, or exponential math for that matter. Those who understand exponential math would understand this, though, of course. And there's probably a few here that do. So with that being said, if it's supposed to just happen to always find key bottoms at this point, whatever, it does all this magical stuff there, then you would assume that there should be just as much of a chance it does a few inches, whatever you want to call this, whatever a centimeter or whatever move you talk about, to do a small handle on the upside to the downside. But no, it usually pierces extra. So whenever I see this, I always think it's going to still do its thing at this 98.33 level, meaning it's going to bounce around here and bottom. Or it's going to just break through this and have no support and go fast. And it's so many different ways. So one way of just, the bouncing around is going like this for a while. Or it just has a fast move and does that like that. Or some sort of nature. But when the game is done for, okay, it's a key level, it pierced below. That's just how it goes. So I wouldn't be surprised if... I'd remove my lines. I'm used to doing that. Oh well, who cares? It's only Binance. And it's only short term. And, it's probably going to just go down a little bit more. We'll see. And when I say a little bit more, of course, I mean at least. Let's look at theta. 1,245 Satoshi on the 15-minute time frame. I talked about this yesterday. I like this situation, and it's been going up a little bit since I talked about it, as it managed to get above this level of established resistance, and it's holding in there relatively nice right now. On the 3-hour term time frame, we can see in here that when did it get out? Well, it got out yesterday at 2 in the morning. And then At 5 in the morning period, it did what it needed to do. It officially got to and pierced above previous high from this move in here. And then I don't know what to call this, like a matching move of the period where the highs and lows are relatively matched. I mean, technically it's an outside period, but I mean, really? Because this high was 1234, the next one was 1235. It finished off a low at 1182, which was 1189 before. So pretty much the numbers were the same, giving just retracing the exact period that it had before. And the same was true about the 11 o'clock one. And this one was technically, I think, an inside one, or yeah, because this high was 2 basis points higher than this. And this, or the low, the high here 1235, the high here 1226. Yeah, a little bit of a lower high. But then there's another thing too. I've talked about an inside period. Well, this is a double inside period. This one and this one collectively. Because the low here is 1184, the high here is 1232, which of course makes it technically an inside period of this, and pretty much as I've been saying, like a matching one. So all this inside movement, but along the way we can see, especially when we include the 17-hour period from last night, that we have this ascending triangle, which is probably going to be much better noticeable on a shorter term time frame, like the single hour or the 15-minute or 30-minute if I were to show it and all that stuff. I rarely need to go to it, but I just like to have this like poker chips, like if you're doing like how you'd have them on the table 4 or 5 times higher, like about 4 times higher. I like 4x moves. That's my favorite from each one, which is why I go 1, 4, 15, 1, 3, 8 daily, 3-day, weekly, and monthly. And so yeah, let's do that. Let's take a look at this on the hourly. And there's a lot of beautiful uptrend lines in here, and they broke. Resistance lines, that didn't break. But this is one of those key breaks in here, and this is like, let me just, yeah, this is, I'm not, yeah, this was like an intermediate one. So this break in here, when did it happen? It happened at 1900 hours. So if you're in the situation where, and I've talked about this before, there's multiple, I mean, I really don't, yeah, okay, I'm just slow down. I've talked about this before. You wait for a break of a key level. And this is why it has to be, one, you want it to be a noticeable break, but not too far where it just becomes too late to buy. Because if you were to buy this breaking at 1242 area, 1244, well, it got up to 1295. But if you're buying this break at 1282, well, it still might work out, especially if you're looking at this on a more long term. How are you going to adjust your stops if you play that way? How do you play from this point on if it doesn't work in your direction? Part of risk reward management and strategy. But as we can see here, you get on the early break, and you get your gains, and they happen fast. That's the whole point of it. You have some sort of range-bound market, and you know there's a big level of resistance, and you know if it breaks it, it's going to have a good move. So the strategy amongst it is getting a good play under it, because you're probably got a good chance of a good gain, and it's probably not going to take that long for its time frame. And of course, as a trader, come up with your own risk-reward strategies. So we've had the correctionary mode, and now it's been long on this time frame. It's been several hours for it started to enter into the 18 at 2 in the morning. Right now it's 9:42 a.m. Eastern as I'm doing this video. So sideways. It's had a little bit of rally to the lows to the highs, and it's came back piercing below, matching pretty much in that area, holding and staying above it. And this rally here, yeah, not so great, but sell-off is just hanging in there. So it's going really sideways, just like a wait and see kind of deal. Now if you're looking for any type of momentum getting it, well, we can see the 18 average of highs is in at 1259. So I'm going to be looking for some sort of, just like I mentioned before, try to get it convincingly above, try to get as lowest as possible. And a lot of times that can be fast too. You're like, oh, I want to get in at 1267, 1268. And it's there. You see it at 1263, 1265, so your alerts are going off. You're on the thing, and then you're looking to buy. Next thing you know, it's 1274. Oh, what do I do now? 1274 would be up here. Maybe you buy, maybe you don't, and then maybe it comes down to 1270, and oh, next thing you know, 1282, 1285. And one thing that if you haven't done this before, when markets are in really major pump, awesome, and dump for that matter, when they're extremely volatile going up or down, take a look at the order books and just watch the markets move and look at how, try to focus things on people who are entering, removing bids if you can do that on either side. And then you get a good idea about it. And then you can really see, oh, yeah, it's when it moves that fast, especially with coins that are already fast as is anyway. Theta's not really one of them, but coins like Ripple and Litecoin and of the lights that have much, much higher volume. And this has good volume as it is as on it anyway. Yeah, so what is the volume on here? Can we see it very easily? Like it's. Well, yes, I want yesterday's because it's a full day. 9.6 million of these coins. I don't even own a million of these coins, or even close to it. I let's let's multiply this by its Satoshi price. See, the way I do it is 8 decimals. So if it's a 4-digit decimal code, which is at 1200, I need 4 of them. 8 minus 4. A code like Digibyte is 3. That's 5. If it's got the 5 digits like 26,000, it's 3. So let's do 1240 or 1222 even. That's 117 Bitcoin. So it's pretty good volume. And the pattern on the daily time frame to me continues to look really, really, really good. And let's take a look at Theta as a base currency against Qtum. And base currency, well, the one on the right hand side. So this going down means Theta is doing better, and this going up means Qtum's going better. When we look at what happened from June to 12th to current, we don't need any forensic science teams, experts to tell us that it had a failed breakout. And I don't know what evidence is left on the scenes, but yeah, whatever. It's just a weird reference. It's not even really all that good. But it was higher up here. And it really was a failed breakout because I can draw a line in here. Oh man. I like failed breakouts and breakdowns when I'm ratio trading. What would I rather have? Starting from April 1st. Because if, say, I'm trying to find my drawing tool line. Where is it? There it is. If I were to put if this didn't happen, and it just continued doing what it was doing, which meant maybe it would have go down here and this instead. I mean, I like this because I can see some false hope. And maybe some hope will come later. But no, I can trade in here. And sell and buy back. And when you have a move that goes from 21 low to 46 back down close to 21 now, that's just what happens. Before, let's just get this out of the way so I can see the date. This is like a year. And all of these little bits of up and down moves that happen along the way, like say this little date in here in the middle of March. A high of 20, a low of, it's not 20, a high of 26 and a half, and a low a little under 16. So a differential of like almost 11, or 70-80%. Now, how much of this would you have been available to get? Obviously some, because if the day before it was a firm price at 16 and then you can see the net it's closing at like 20, you at least get that. But there's always a lot of available opportunities just to go back and forth. And the way I look at it is, I just want to hold coin. I just want to hold Bitcoin. Well, if that's the case, you're holding Bitcoin. Or if all I have is just one coin, Litecoin, and that's it, well, then I guess you're a maximalist within that coin, we'll call it. But as long as it's just 2 coins, oh, I want Qtum and I want Theta, and that's it. And I just want to hold it for the long run. Okay, well, fine. And maybe one of your ideas or thinking is, I mean, yeah, it's going to have these up and down movements, but we're talking about going hundreds of times, if not much higher in the future. And yeah, you're right. Those potentials are most certainly there, and those are great returns when you sell there, and that's correct as well. But but if you're planning on holding those coins as it is anyway, and you're realistically thinking, heck, I'm holding for the long term, long like years, 3, 4 years maybe. Well, the amount of if it takes that long, the amount of profitability you can have and go through is fantastic. Especially when you get to the point later on if things aren't as good. Oh my goodness, this one coin's down 28%. This coin's down 54, and it's been a while. We'll say several hundreds of days, and you look, well, I'm actually barely up actually because of the trades. Things like that can happen along the way. So it's really just moving one fund to another. And when you make a trade and you look at your portfolio value, let's just assume you're here. And this ratio is 36. And before that, it was much lower. Let's just assume your portfolio is worth $100,000 or 10,000, whatever. It's all the same. 1 unit. After you sell QTIM to buy theta, and say your portfolio was 100,000, well, your portfolio is still 100,000. And if you were one to take one coin from a private wallet, or you hold, when I say private wallet, a wallet where you control the private keys, you're in the control of it. You send it to an exchange, you buy the other coin, you send it to the other exchanges, then still all those coins are still held in the wallet in that form. It's just one way, or multiple ways, I suppose, of thinking about it. And I'll finish it off with LITECOIN and theta, which is currently in at 734 and continuing its downtrend, which means because theta is on the right hand side, LITECOIN gaining value on theta, but just from this high. Now, it's interesting when you look at the overall idea of one's own risk reward management in real life. And I refer to a situation where you have cash and you don't have cryptos. Therefore, when you have cash, that means you're able to do things like have fun here and there. Always have emergency cash on you because you have money. Though that's a nice feeling to be able to get into. But I truly believe there's going to be a lot of people that are in that class of they're not even close to rich, but they have money, and that's pretty much been me for most of my life. And you get to the level of these prices going higher, and they start to notice that their style of life is becoming more and more difficult, and things start to run out on them. That's just the things that happen as inflationary issues get us over time. And as far as protecting against that, when you're able to put little bits into cryptocurrencies, and that should be very easy for a lot of that style of people or person. And of course, I'm talking about somebody who really doesn't have to sweat over currency, but is a long ways away from being rich. And that means you can't put too much in it, nor should you when you look at your portfolio diversification management, especially because cryptos can have monstrous gains. You don't need to have a large portion in it, but you most certainly can. Obviously, you want to make sure your cash is fine and all that other stuff. But yeah, throwing that aside, you're there, you got your cryptos, and then you have those situations happen where, oh my goodness, I used to go to this one spot, buy a steak, buy a beer, buy a this, do this, go here afterwards. And it was it was affordable. No, I can't afford to do that anymore, they might say. But in cryptos, next thing you know, you're like, okay, well, let's just find ways of using cryptos into money. Maybe where I use it, they won't accept it. But I normally would have bought this on my bill, something else. I can use cryptos for that. Now that money I was going to use to normally go out to this one nice, elegant spot, I can use to do such. And really paying for it via cryptocurrencies. That's part of the big transfer of wealth. The final topic now is the levels above it. People with having six figures and more of cash available to them. Because what's your emergency cash left? For example, if something happens, you need $400 to fix something really quick. I'm in that situation. A lot of people are in that situation. $400 isn't that much. But what number can you easily just? What's your emergency cash value at? You can throw away at any given time without really going into major investments, kind of deal. Just cash ready to go. Although some of your major investments might be cash, considering um, cryptocurrencies is kind of that cash money. Then if it's 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, million, 2 million, and that's where I want to go on. There's a lot of millionaires out there, a lot of six-figure income people. When you got thousands of people who play professional sports, and you got all these actors, you got all these professional businessmen, and just skilled professionals who become millionaires because of that, and they're just not like that, but that's just who they are. And then they get into those situations where they notice that their levels of income might actually be going down of what they have. Not only that, they just tell that the prices are so expensive. And at some point, they rush into cryptocurrencies. And they have been. But when a mad rush of rich people get into cryptos, and maybe it doesn't happen, maybe it does, that brings interesting situations into play. You got 50 NFL athletes talking in the locker room, and maybe the Minnesota Vikings, I don't know. Actually, the Miami Dolphins, maybe them. They're accepting Litecoin and Bitcoin now. And then you got 9, 12, 16 of them this year that seriously get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And then there's other teams that do that. You got all those professional football teams overseas or soccer as it's named in North America. A lot of them got cash too. And I think a lot of that is happening, but also you get to the point of one day per day by day level learning why the fiat currency system is such a mess and such a system designed to break down and designed to cause a lot of monetary problems for people, debt-based issues. Then makes it easy to get into things like cryptocurrencies and precious metals, especially when you're able to afford it. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye bye.